Hello there, and thanks for joining us on this episode of Africa Business Weekly. It's time for another fresh set of features of the biggest conversations from the world of business across sub-Saharan Africa. I'm Akion Bakere. Now, this week's highlights from West Africa will focus on how Nigeria is partnering with the private sector to boost local rice production. In East Africa, it's all about partnerships as well in the aviation sector. Rwanda Air Cargo and Qatar Airways Cargo have launched their partnership project. Let's now delve into the details of these and more with development from South Africa. It's over to you, Palesa.
The International Monetary Fund's World Economic Outlook projects that South Africa will have the highest global unemployment rate in 2023, coming in at 35.6%. My colleague Godfrey Mutizwa caught up with the World Economic Forum's Managing Director, Sadia Zahidi, to unpack the role of AI and more within the limits of the Future of Jobs Report 2023. For more, let's listen in.
And what we find is that out of that set of jobs, about 83 million jobs risk being eliminated, and around 69 million new jobs will be created. So there is a net loss in terms of the overall number of jobs, but there are at the same time some extremely positive outlooks when it comes to future job creation possibilities, when it comes to the green transition, when it comes to technology, when it comes to education, and when it comes to agriculture. So this is by no means conclusive in terms of a gloomy picture around the future of jobs, but what we know of current disruptions leads us to believe that there is likely to be a net loss in terms of jobs overall.
Yeah, and it reinforces, of course, the thought that there's going to be change, so we might as well deal with it. And naturally, people would gravitate into asking the question, where are these jobs being lost the most?
Yeah, so it's very clear that, all of us, I think, are familiar with what has been happening in the world of generative AI, and particularly playing with tools such as ChatGPT since November of last year. It is very clear that there will be an additional wave of automation for roles that were already on their way out. So administrative roles, secretarial roles, lower skilled roles where some of this algorithmic automation is possible. Those are certainly roles that are going to be going through some disruption. Similarly, I think when it comes to the green transition, there's going to be a massive amount of growth when it comes to green energy production, but some of the more traditional roles around fossil fuel energy, while they're not seeing a disruption yet, towards the end of this 4 to 5 year period that we're forecasting, there could start to be a decline.
Yeah. So one of the things that, I must say surprised, because, the conversation around AI is not defined. I mean, we are defining it, and everybody has got an opinion, and I think many people are scared that AI may lead into things that we do not intend in the first place. But I was mildly surprised to see it was identified as one of the areas with the fastest paces of growth. Were you able to get a little more detail as to why that was the case?
Yes. So I gave you an example of the types of roles that may be disrupted, but overall, more than half of companies believe that they will see job growth due to artificial intelligence, and they are planning to invest in AI and big data skills for their workforce to help their workforce use these technologies better across all skills levels. So I think overall there is expected to be growth, and the use of some of that artificial intelligence is across multiple industries. It's in education, it's in agricultural technologies, it is in communications, it is in many different aspects of creative industries as well. And so because of that, the growth is expected across multiple sectors, and the losses are limited to a few of these administrative roles.
In news from Africa's world-renowned music and art sector, Angélique Kidjo is now recipient of the 2023 laureate of the Polar Music Prize, the most prestigious music award in the world. CNBC Africa spoke to her about continent-wide concerns in relation to copywriting.
The continent of Africa is at the center of all music. It has been there forever, and we African hasn't realized the power that we unleash through our music and the empowerment it has given so many different type of music. And today, the technology allowed us to get out of the barrier that was not allowing us to be seen internationally. And you have this young generation of Africans that are really savvy about that technology, and they're unstoppable and unapologetical. So that's it.
That's brilliant to hear. But what about issues of rights and ownership when it comes to music? The more the music travels, the more it's being exposed, and that has in the past been a challenge. Is it still the case?
Oh yeah, it's still very much so the case. What is going on is that at one point, when CDs was not selling anymore, the music industry was in crisis. We have platforms that come to the rescue of the music for the survival of the music scene, but it comes at the cost of artists, because today, when you write your music, wherever you are, it's not only an issue in Africa, but it's a global issue where artificial intelligence and all those platforms, they use the content that we produce without paying the fair share of it, because the way they calculate it is not really every artist that have the right for this. It's very complex the way the calculations are made by algorithm. So when you're a young artist today and you want to make a living, the only way for you to make a living, even if you're already an established artist, is to tour, is to do concert. So there's a lot of work to do also to put legislation in place to protect the intellectual property of people all over the world. Otherwise, it becomes unsustainable, because the system have to evolve in a way that every part, every little piece of it, profit from what it is.
And you do quite a bit of work around women and bringing equitable access for women as well as fair pay. Tell us more about some of the initiatives that you're running.
It's a lot of work also on that front. And I think that what I've been doing with my foundation since 2006 is to listen to the needs of the young women and the young girls, and figure out how they can be part of the solution, what expertise they have, where they want to go, and then we find a solution that is global and a long-term view on it. So that's the initiative I am trying to implement everywhere, because we need to think 10 years from now, and then within 5 years, add more years and see what is working and what is not working, and really enroll the process of the change in the world, the change of the attitude that we are having towards success that we are facing, because people believe what they see, what they can touch. We cannot continue just making assumption, talking a lot without trying some of the solution and see how far we go.
I also want to ask you, when it comes to the Polar Music Prize, often referred to as the Nobel Prize of Music, it is a very prestigious award. Only 3 Africans have gotten it beforehand. How do you intend to use kind of the prestige and the influence that you have having been awarded this going forward?
Well, I've always talked about the resilience of the continent of Africa through its people. I'm gonna talk about, and that's one of the reasons why I'm receiving the Polar Prize. The fact that I spoke at the Grammy when I received 5 years ago, and talk about this young generation of African music that's gonna take the world by storm, and it's happening, and it's just the beginning of it, and talk about what it is that we African can do also to make changes in our countries. We need partnership. It's not AIDS that is helping us. It hasn't helped us move the needle that far as we wanted to. But we Africans have to define the partnership that we want to do. And then when people come on board, it's not them calling the shot, but we talking together on the same level to find a long-lasting solution to all the issues we are facing. And in that, I believe profoundly that even in the Western world, people are looking for those kind of collaboration, because it's time that we make profound and change, because Africa is the continent that have the largest population of youth. Yeah. And we owe that young generation coming a future that is brighter than what we have been through and what we can foresee if we don't do anything. And that's my main concern, because the young kids in Africa, they are smart. They come up with ideas. They're entrepreneur in many different ways. How do we tap into that to help our countries develop to the point where people come and take knowledge from us that we can train, not the other way around? And that's one thing that it's always at the center of everything I say. I might be on my knees, but I don't need help. I need partnership. We need partnership, and we need to be respected when we have those partnerships.
That's it from the Southern African team. It's back to you.
Quite an interesting rundown from South Africa. Thanks, Balesa, for the update. It's time for us now to get some more insight into developments that shaped the week from East Africa. Sarah is on standby. Take it away, Sarah.
Thank you so much. From the East this week, Rwandair Cargo and Qatar Airways Cargo launched their partnership project, the Kigali Cargo Hub. What does this mean for businesses across the region? Here's a conversation I had with the Rwandair CEO Yvonne Makolo and Qatar Airways Cargo COC Guillaume Hallo.
It is a strategic partnership. Africa is a strategic region of the world. This is one of the markets of tomorrow. It is a market today, but it will grow. Every forecast, economical forecast, show the same direction, and we want to be in that market and start serving it and helping it grow. We are helping the growth by connecting Africa with the rest of the world, import and export. So on the import side, we basically facilitate the importation of goods that are good for the economical development of the country. And for exports, our experience as Qatar Airways Cargo, we are the largest cargo airline in the world. Every time we open new routes and new countries with new services, it stimulates the economy to create new opportunities for exports. And I would not be surprised if within a couple of months, we start seeing more exports of perishable from Rwanda into the world because of the connectivity.
Right. And you did talk to us about how long this process took and what it actually took out of the both parties to get here. What did it take?
It takes resilience and it takes determination. It takes a belief and it takes a vision. It takes a lot of effort because airline business is no easy business. It's a heavily regulated industry with a lot of complexities that have to be tackled. Both Rwandair and Qatar Airways have that experience and that expertise, and we've worked hand in hand multiple times to make this happen. But again, it worked eventually because both Yvonne and myself and our respective shareholders believe in it.
Right. And what does Qatar Airways stand to gain out of this partnership? I do understand that it's a win-win situation, and you did mention that Qatar Airways Cargo is one of the biggest, is the biggest actually in the world. So on your side of things, what's the win?
The win?
Yes.
Oh, it's very easy. We win increased and enhanced presence in what I call the market of tomorrow. So for example, with this project, I will be able to open, as I mentioned earlier, 10 new stations in Africa. And I can only do that if I fly from Kigali. Why? Because if I fly from Doha, those stations, those destinations are not big enough to sustain a full aircraft worth of volumes. So I need to consolidate all those volumes to Kigali, and from here with a smaller aircraft, I can go to 10 different places, delivering 10 smaller pieces of cargo. Do you understand?
And I do understand that in terms of the forward-looking approach, in order to actually see the impact, let's take a look into what Kigali Cargo Hub will look like, let's say in the next 5 years. What do you expect to gain from it on both sides?
Okay, I think that would be more a question for Yvonne, but I'll tell you my take on it. In 5 years, Kigali Airport probably has relocated to a new location, state-of-the-art facilities, multiple runways, with professional teams, because that expertise would have built over time, and most likely would have become or would be about to become a connecting hub for Africa, like a few other places are already, but there is room for an additional one.
What it means for Rwanda, it's a positive thing for us and for the region, for the continent. What it means is what we've done with Qatar Airways is we've positioned an aircraft here, an A310 here in Kigali, that's permanently based here. And Qatar Airways flies their 777 freighters here twice a week. The cargo is then offloaded to the smaller aircraft, and the cargo is distributed to different destinations within the African continent. So for Rwanda, it's great. We're able to handle the aircraft, which is a revenue stream for us, but we're also able to purchase, buy capacity on both aircrafts for our exporters and importers. So that solves the problem of cargo capacity that we've had in the past. And that also supplements what we already have, what we're already doing as Rwanda on our A330 passenger aircrafts and our cargo freighter.
Moving on, Sudan is in a volatile region bordering the Red Sea, Sahel region, and the Horn of Africa. Countries neighboring Sudan, including Ethiopia, Chad, and South Sudan, have been affected by the ongoing conflict in the country. Earlier this week, we were joined by Akol Dok, managing partner at ORUS, for more on the impact of this war on South Sudan.
Many of these people are South Sudanese themselves, Sudanese, Kenyans, Ugandans, and people from various nationalities who want to use South Sudan as a key point to then go to other countries. And so what has been happening is there's been a lot of initiatives led by many private citizens in partnership with local, regional, national governments to try to alleviate this situation. Some of the things that have been done is that to ensure that South Sudanese and people who are in need of transportation from Sudan are brought to border towns such as Rang. And then from there, they go to the neighboring village, which is one of the oil fields that has an airport, and are brought to Juba. So what has been done is that the government has been working with a lot of people on the ground to provide food, to provide supplies, to provide transportation to these people. A lot of business people and a lot of private sector individuals have contributed to this. The biggest challenge now is that the demand for food, the demand for supplies, the demand for housing. So one of the proposals is that people are looking at building a small internal displacement camp by the border or in these areas so that people can be welcome as they transition into the other areas.
Let's not look at the impact on some of the areas like oil and gas. I know South Sudan exports oil, its crude oil through the port of Sudan. What has been the impact of this?
The biggest impact of this has been uncertainty, because it's not clear right now if the pipeline is secure or if these facilities are going to be protected. Well, South Sudan according to the Minister of Petroleum, went to the parliament a couple of weeks and said that South Sudan is producing 170,000 barrels of crude oil a day. All of this crude goes through the Sudan export pipeline, and this pipeline then goes to Port Sudan, where it's then sold to international markets. The biggest challenge is this pipeline going to be protected? Is this pipeline prone to attacks? Is this pipeline going to be safe? Because if this pipeline were to be destroyed, it can pose an economic threat to South Sudan. And on top of that, most of the oil field supplies that are imported come through the port of Sudan. They come to the marine terminal in Port Sudan. And the major oil fields, such as the Depok oil fields in Maluk County, the Espok oil fields in Unity, and the Jipok oil fields in Ruang and Unity, they bring a lot of their supplies from Sudan. That includes equipment, heavy oil, supplies, and technology. So the impact right now is not clear, but there's an uncertainty that bringing these things is going to be more difficult and it's going to be more costly, increasing the cost of production.
So with this uncertainty, Akol, what is the government doing?
Well, right now the government is working very hard to engage the parties. We just saw a statement from the president of the Republic of South Sudan, President Salva Kiir, that he's constantly in talks with the warring parties and he's waiting for the situation to subside, and he wants to travel personally to Sudan to engage them to find a peaceful solution. The Minister of Petroleum has been working in coordination with the people there, with the people in Port Sudan, to ensure that these key oil facilities are protected and safe. And so the conversation has been to talk with both sides, the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, to ensure that oil facilities are not attacked. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs has been really engaging the Sudanese government, the Sudanese stakeholders, and key people key stakeholders of Sudan to find a solution. So South Sudan is not sleeping because they have a lot of interest in Sudan and they want to ensure that this situation is solved peacefully.
Well, that's all coming in from the East this week. It's back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Bringing discussions now to West Africa, our focus starts with agriculture. Nigeria is partnering with the private sector in its bid to boost the rice production and attain food security across the country. And the partnership cuts across the agricultural value chain in line with its revised National Rice Development Strategy 2021 to 2026. Manuel Morenhoff, the managing director of Beulah Nigeria, shed some light on how the partnership is driving interest of private sector players. Take a listen.
As Beulah, we are a technology and engineering company, and we provide solutions for food, feed, and advanced materials processing. And as such, we have been in Nigeria for more than 50 years and working with and collaborating with some of the major manufacturers of food, feed, and grains in Nigeria. And as such, rice, of course, has a specific interest now from the government, from private sectors as well, to boost food security in Nigeria, because it's now a locally grown commodity that is locally processed. So it's perfect to feed the nation and to be able to feed 800 million Nigerians by the end of the century.
Well, talk to us about local supply versus local demand, and where we are with those numbers. And also, I'd like to also bring in the, excuse me, the Immortal Rice Mill. I know you're also an instrumental partner in that, but let's start with local demand, local supply, and what you see across the value chain there.
Absolutely. So we have roughly a demand of 7 million metric tons per annum. And at the moment, we have a supply, so locally processed and produced, of 4 million metric tons. And of course, there is a lot of potential still to fill this gap
the
of 3 million, correct?
Gap, okay.
And then feed the nation. Also, the demand is also increasing year by year.
I know we have a couple of rice mills across the country, but let's talk about the one in, I believe that's Lagos State, Immortal Rice Mill. Talk to us about the partnership, the model, and how it works, how it's working, and just what to expect from that partnership and from the rice mill itself.
Absolutely. So we have been approached by the Lagos State government in 2017 to support them with the conceptualization, the technical consultation, and of course then also the supply of the rice mill, as well as then related after sales services like maintenance. So then a couple of years afterwards, now we have officially inaugurated by His Excellency President Buhari just a few months ago. So the rice mill is now running, and it's providing actually rice grown in Nigeria and milled in Lagos State, for the biggest consumer of rice, which is, of course, Lagos.
Lagosian, so no surprise there. But talk to us about, with that on ground now, and I'm thinking, how easy is that to replicate elsewhere, perhaps other parts of the country, and also pace. How fast can we close the gap, the 3 million metric tons gap? Okay, so from our perspective, we can definitely close this within the next 10 years, definitely, because of course we have already the processing capacity. Is also important that we as a nation continue to invest in the production of the raw material, which is very important. And we have seen it also in other states, for example, cross-river states, where we have successful public-private partnerships. And of course, the private sector is also fundamental in managing the change and improving food security across the nation. And when we look at the northern part around Kano, we have a lot of rice mills. We have also rice mills in the northeastern part as well, also now coming up in the northwestern part of the country.
Next up, we catch up with ongoing projects at the World Bank. Now, the group has begun work to assess the business and investment climate in up to 180 economies under its flagship Business Ready project. Norman Loiza, the Director of Business Ready Projects at the World Bank, provided insights into the ongoing assessment and what to expect in the first report to be released next year. Take a listen.
The new Business Ready report is the new World Bank corporate flagship report to assess the business and investment climates around the world. As you well said, the idea is to measure 180 economies worldwide every year. And you also mentioned rightly that this project improves upon and replaces the earlier Doing Business project, which was fairly well known around the world. And this project, Business Ready, improves upon doing business in a number of respects. And let me cite a couple of them. The first is that it will take a more comprehensive approach regarding the private sector. That is, it will not only look at the ease of doing business for individual firms, but it will look at the private sector development more comprehensively. That is, taking into account also the welfare of workers, of the environment, and consumers, for instance. The second way in which this is a different project is that it provides for a more positive role for governments to contribute. That is, it doesn't advocate outright deregulation in markets, but actually it promotes good quality, high quality regulations, and also public services, particularly in regards to digital adoption, that can help firms become more successful, more productive, and therefore grow more. And the third important difference is that we will take into account the perspective, the information that we can obtain directly from firms through their company managers or owners. That is something that we didn't do in the past, and that we believe is an important improvement over the previous, with respect to the previous project.
And it's a wrap from the West, and this also brings us to the end of the show. Thanks, Palesa and Sarah, for the regional update. Now, do make sure you join us same time next week for more interesting conversations that matter to you. I'm Akian Bakere. Thanks for watching.